Hello dear friends, yes, it's Brother Sean again in this series, but this particular short video is titled, We Are Called to Liberation. To liberation, to be liberated from negativity. I guess that might sound good coming from someone like me who's a monk, but I'm liberated. Okay, for many years I wasn't liberated. As a devout Catholic, I wasn't really liberated. I played the game, I abided by the rules, I was miserable. As a young Catholic monk, I wasn't liberated. I was enshackled and enslaved to a mindset of fear. And I know the church has moved on, but it still enshackles beautiful souls to a life of fear and misery, because it creates that sense of low self-worth. You're a sinner. The word sinner, for me, is an evocative word that is about mind control and suffocation. But this is a personal sharing from my heart. I am not here representing the Catholic Church. I'm on the outside looking in at what they're doing, and I just send them blessing. But yes, I am a Catholic Christian, and as a lay Franciscan, a contemplative Franciscan, I don't necessarily just buy into Christian. I buy into what God asked of my heart through Francis of Assisi in 2008, when he said to come out of my comfort zone and embrace all faiths. And though there has been a struggle, a personal struggle, many challenges, mostly from within my own religious family. But I was warned about that, but I never really heeded it. But now I do. But the one beautiful thing that's come out of all of this for me is that the moment I surrendered my heart in 2007 to listen to the voice of my beloved, Sananda Jesus, the Barefoot Galilean, when he said, I never let you go, he was referring to a time in my life when I was forced, along with a lot of other young monks, to leave the order because there was no joy there, there was no happiness. We were all miserable. Many of us were in training to get our state registration exams, to be able to work in our hospitals and care centres as nursing monks, but we weren't happy. We didn't look happy. And I certainly wasn't happy. I was so depressed by the lack of love. But I always think of what Gandhi said, I like your Christ, but not your Christians, because your Christians are not like your Christ. And I was one of those that he talked about. I was embittered. I was playing a game. I lived in fear. I was afraid. I was envious of those who were happy and free. Isn't that sad? But at 63 years old now, I know that when I surrendered my heart, oh yes, I put up a good fight. But when I came away from my head that was filling me with all sorts of nonsense, because there were so many voices speaking all at once that prevented me from listening to my heart. But when I finally surrendered, I could hear the voice of the Master Jesus say, come back to me. I never let you go. And in that moment, I knelt in silence at midnight just as it was about to become the 8th of December 2007, a symbolic date for my journey, because it was on the 8th of December 1966 I was clothed in the habit as a novice of the Community of Nursing Monks in Ireland. And on the 8th of December 1968 I was ordained a monk. And each year from then to the present day, I've always held a certain reverence for that date, looking back on those two special events in my life. So it was right that on the 8th of December 2007 that I should surrender completely and allow my heart be free to experience liberation from guilt. And I could feel the shackles, the chains being snapped from my feet and my hands, but from my heart. The moment I said, I will return, I will embrace you, I could feel his love, God's love, coming back into my heart. And I guess I had a lot to celebrate, because I convinced myself in my head that when God said, come back to me, that he was referring to going back into a monastery to live a life that took 12 years in counseling and therapy to overcome the impact of my previous monastic experience. 12 years of misery, of learning to forgive myself. And I know from my years of supporting others as a pastoral counsellor, I've befriended many nuns and monks, ministers, men and women of various religions, who were trapped in a mindset of deep anger, unforgiveness, low self-worth, self-loathing, because they were forced to abandon something they loved. Today, as a member of the Teo community, I'm not shackled with their rule, because in the Constitution it invites me to write my own rule, and it invites me to take my own vows, the vows of my choosing. Some take celibacy, others don't. But there's no force and there's no pressure. So that in itself is an invitation to freedom. And it frees the heart from all that burden and guilt. And it allows your heart embrace the spiritual teachings of many of the world's great religions, where there is a lot of goodness and beauty, but where it falls foul is when man interferes and imposes restrictions of do's and don'ts, which eventually alienate your heart from being free. Well, I am free. I can choose to take this habit off and resume back to traveling abroad, having a great time lying in the sun. But that's not happiness, and that's not freedom. That's stress. As a contemplative, I have locked the dramas of the world at the gate to our little monastery, so as to protect, safeguard and nurture the joy I feel in my heart and the freedom and the liberation in my way of life. So I've become selfist, 50% selfish to protect what I've been given, and 50% selfless to share with others, but first I must care for me. Whereas as a Catholic nursing monk, I was in service to the whole church, and there was very little of me, because it wasn't good theology to think of you. You had to offer everything up as a penance, whereas now I'm free. So you too are called to liberation. And it takes courage. It takes courage to step back into your power and reclaim your divinity as a child of love, a child of the light, a child of God. Namaste.